Dae Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead as he pushed another cargo container across the loading dock. The container was heavy, designed for species much stronger than humans. His muscles ached, but he kept pushing. Around him, alien workers moved similar containers with ease, their natural strength making the work look simple. "Look at the human struggle," one of the Vorath soldiers said, his reptilian face twisting into what passed for a smile among his kind. "Perhaps we should get him a smaller box?" The other aliens laughed. Dae kept his head down and continued working. He had learned months ago that responding only made things worse. The Vorath Empire controlled this sector of space, and on Viridian 7 station, their word was law. Dae had been working on the station for 8 months. He was one of only 3 humans here, out of nearly 10,000 residents. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council just 2 years ago, and most species still saw them as newcomers, primitive, weak. The Vorath made sure everyone knew it. "Kim!" Commander Threx's voice boomed across the dock. The massive Vorath officer approached, his scales gleaming under the artificial lights. "Your cargo manifest is incorrect. Again." Dae pulled out his datapad and checked the numbers. Everything was correct. He had triple-checked it that morning. "Sir, I believe the manifest is... Are you questioning me, human?" Threx leaned down, his hot breath washing over Dae's face. It smelled like sulfur and meat. "Perhaps you think your primitive mind knows better than mine." The other workers had stopped to watch. This was entertainment for them. Dae felt his face grow hot, but he swallowed his pride. "No, sir, I apologize." "Good." Threx smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Now, there is a penalty for filing incorrect manifests. 500 credits. 500 credits was half of Dae's weekly pay. For an error he did not make. But he had no choice. He transferred the credits from his account to Threx's. The commander walked away, laughing with his subordinates. Dae returned to his work, his jaw clenched tight. Around him, the whispers and laughter continued. The weak human. The pathetic human. He heard it all and said nothing. That evening, Dae sat alone in his small quarters, eating a simple meal. The room was barely large enough for a bed and a small desk. Human quarters were the smallest on the station, located in the worst section where the environmental systems often failed. But it was home. His communicator beeped, a message. Dae opened it and felt his heart stop. It was from Earth Defense Force Command. Official. Urgent. He read the words 3 times, but they did not change. The diplomatic vessel New Dawn had been attacked by pirates in the outer reaches. 17 dead, 23 wounded. The ship had been carrying diplomats and medical personnel to a colony world. Among the dead, Hana Kim, diplomatic aide, his sister. Among the dead, Yuna Park, medical officer, his childhood friend. Dae stared at the message until his vision blurred. Hana had been 26 years old. She had joined the diplomatic corps because she believed in building bridges between humanity and other species. She had been excited about the assignment, had called him just a week ago to tell him about the mission. Yuna had known Hana since they were children. They had grown up in the same neighborhood, attended the same schools. Yuna had become a doctor because she wanted to help people. Any people. Human or alien, it did not matter to her. Now, they were both gone. The next morning, Dae went to the Galactic Council's station office. He waited for 3 hours before a bored Talarian clerk finally saw him. "I want to report the attack on the New Dawn," Dae said. "I want to know what is being done to find those responsible." The clerk's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "The incident is under review." "Under review? 17 people are dead." "The outer reaches are unpatrolled space. The risk is well known. Your people chose to travel there. They were diplomats. They were protected by galactic law." The clerk made a dismissive gesture with one of her tentacles. File a formal complaint. It will be reviewed in 68 months. Day felt something break inside him. 6 to 8 months? Is there anything else? The clerk was already looking at her next appointment. That afternoon, Day requested a meeting with Commander Threx. The Vorath officer seemed amused by the request and agreed to see him. "Ah, the grieving human," Threx said when Day entered his office. "I heard about your loss. Tragic." "I want to request leave," Day said, "to attend the memorial service on Earth." "Denied. We are short-staffed." "Sir, your sister knew the risks. Perhaps if humans were stronger, smarter, better prepared, she would still be alive." Threx leaned back in his chair. "The pirates probably saw an easy target. Weak humans, weak ships, weak defenses. You provoke attacks by your very existence." Day's hands curled into fists at his sides. "With respect, sir." "You have no respect, human. You have nothing. You are nothing." Threx waved his hand. "Get out. Return to work." Day left the office. He did not return to work. Instead, he went to the station's information center and began searching through public records. Ship manifests, trade routes, pirate activity reports. He worked for hours, absorbing everything. That night, he transferred most of his savings to purchase a small scout ship that was being sold for scrap. It was old, damaged, and barely functional. The dealer, a fat Groovian merchant, laughed when Day bought it. "What will you do with that, human? Use it as a coffin?" Day said nothing. He had the ship towed to a private dock in the station's lower levels, a place where few people went. Over the next week, Day's behavior changed. He still worked his shifts on the loading dock, still endured the mockery and abuse. But in his free time, he studied. He accessed Earth's military archives, reading everything he could about warfare, tactics, and combat. He learned about guerrilla fighters, special forces, and psychological operations. He trained his body in the high-gravity gym that most aliens avoided. He pushed himself until his muscles screamed, then pushed harder. He learned to move silently, to think tactically, to see patterns others missed. Sung, the human engineer, noticed the change. "What are you doing, Day?" "Preparing," Day said. "For what?" Day looked at his friend with eyes that had gone cold and hard. "To become something they have never seen before." No one paid attention to the quiet human on the loading dock. They did not see him studying their security systems, memorizing patrol patterns, learning their weaknesses. They saw only what they expected to see, a weak, primitive creature beneath their notice. They would learn their mistake. But by then, it would be too late. 3 months had passed since Hana's death. Day Kim no longer looked like the tired freight handler who had shuffled around the loading docks. His body had changed, hardened by constant training in the high-gravity chambers. His eyes had changed too, becoming sharper, more focused. Every morning before his shift, Day woke at 4 station time. He ran 10 kilometers on the upper ring where the artificial gravity was strongest. His lungs burned and his legs ached. But he pushed through the pain. Pain was temporary. Weakness was fatal. After running, he trained in hand-to-hand combat. The station's combat gym was mostly empty at this hour, used only by serious fighters. Day practiced against the holographic opponents, learning to move efficiently, to strike with precision, to use his smaller size as an advantage rather than a weakness. The aliens who saw him train sometimes laughed. Humans were not built for fighting, they said. No claws, no natural armor, no venom. But Day was not trying to fight like an alien. He was learning to fight like a human. He studied Earth's military history obsessively, the ancient wars, the modern conflicts, the tactics that had allowed weaker forces to defeat stronger enemies. Guerrilla warfare, ambush tactics, psychological operations. Humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years, and they had learned lessons the galaxy had never needed to learn. During his work shifts, Day watched everything. He memorized the cargo schedules, noting which ships carried weapons, which carried supplies, which carried information. He learned the security protocols, the blind spots in the surveillance system, the times when guards changed shifts. He was patient, methodical. No one suspected what he was planning because no one believed a human capable of such planning. Sung found Day in the private dock one evening. The old scout ship looked different now. Sung whistled low. "You have been busy." Day nodded. Over the past months, he had been slowly modifying the ship. Nothing obvious, nothing that would attract attention. But the engines were more efficient now. The hull plating reinforced in key areas, the sensor array upgraded with parts he had carefully acquired. "Where did you get all this?" Sung asked, running his hand over a new thruster assembly. "Lost cargo, misfiled shipments, equipment marked for recycling." Day's voice was calm. "The station processes thousands of containers every day. A few items going missing here and there. No one notices." Sung looked at his friend with concern. "This is dangerous, Day. If they catch you..." "They will not catch me. They do not pay attention to humans." Day pulled out a datapad showing schematics of the ship. "Can you install these modifications?" Sung studied the plans. His eyes widened. "These are weapon mounts, concealed weapon mounts." "Yes?" "Day, what are you planning?" Day met his friend's eyes. "Justice." Sung was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I will help you. But you will need more than weapons. You will need information." That was how Day met Mina. She was half human, half Talarian, a rare hybrid who belonged to neither species completely. She worked in the shadows of Viridian 7, trading information to those who could pay. Sung had known her for years and trusted her as much as anyone could trust an information broker. They met in a quiet bar in the lower levels. Mina was small, with her mother's dark hair and her father's unusual eyes. She studied Day carefully as he sat down. "Sung says you are looking for information about pirates," she said without greeting, "the Black Fang Raiders specifically." Mina's expression did not change, but Day saw the slight tension in her shoulders. "That is dangerous information. I can pay. It is not about payment. The Black Fang Raiders have protection, high-level protection." "Vorath?" Mina nodded slowly. "There are rumors, whispers. Some say certain Vorath officials use the Raiders to handle problems that cannot be addressed officially. Competitors, political enemies, inconvenient diplomats." Day felt his jaw tighten. "Like a human diplomatic vessel?" "Perhaps." Mina leaned forward. "But if you go after the Black Fang Raiders, you go after their protectors too. That is suicide. Then I need to know everything: their routes, their bases, their ships, their leadership structure. Why would you throw your life away like this?" "They killed my sister," Day said simply. "They killed my friend. The Galactic Council does nothing. The Vorath protect them. Someone has to act." Mina studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, though it did not reach her eyes. "You are either very brave or very foolish, probably both." She extended her hand. "I will get you the information, but I want to help you in other ways too." "Why?" "Because I am tired of watching the strong abuse the weak. Because I am tired of watching criminals operate with immunity. Because..." She paused. "Because someone should care when people die." Over the following weeks, Mina provided Day with everything he needed. Maps of pirate routes, schedules of their supply runs, weaknesses in their security, the names of their captains and lieutenants. She also provided something more valuable: the knowledge that the Black Fang Raiders operated with the support of corrupt Vorath officials who took a cut of every raid. Day absorbed all of it. He created detailed plans, ran simulations, prepared for every scenario. The aliens around him still saw only a simple freight handler. but Day had become something else entirely. He was a weapon being carefully sharpened. Sung completed the modifications to the ship: hidden weapon ports, enhanced shields, a stealth system cobbled together from a dozen different technologies. It was not a warship, but it was dangerous in the right hands. "The weapons are not military grade," Sung warned, "and the stealth system will only work for short periods." "It will be enough," Day said. One night, Mina brought him the information he had been waiting for. "A Black Fang supply convoy will be passing through the asteroid belt Sigma 9 in 3 days. Light escort, valuable cargo." Day looked at the data. The convoy would be vulnerable during its crossing. The asteroids would provide cover. The timing was perfect. "This is your last chance to stop," Mina said. "Once you start this, there is no going back." Day thought of Hana's smile. He thought of Yuna's kindness. He thought of Threx's mocking laughter and the Galactic Council's indifference. He thought of every insult, every humiliation, every moment when humans had been dismissed as weak and irrelevant. "I am not stopping," he said. The next 2 days passed slowly. Day went through his normal routine, working his shifts, keeping his head down. But at night, he prepared. He loaded weapons onto the ship. He checked every system 3 times. He reviewed his attack plan until he could execute it in his sleep. Sung and Mina came to see him off the night before the operation. "Are you scared?" Sung asked. "Yes," Day admitted, "but fear is just information. It tells me I am still alive, still capable of making mistakes. I will use it." "Good luck," Mina said. She hesitated, then added, "Come back." "I will." Day launched his ship in the early morning hours when station traffic was lightest. No one questioned a small scout ship leaving for routine patrol. He set course for the asteroid belt Sigma 9 and activated the autopilot. Then he sat in the pilot's chair and waited. He had spent 3 months preparing for this moment. 3 months learning to fight, learning to think like a warrior, learning to become what the galaxy had never expected from a human. The Black Fang Raiders thought they were predators. They thought humans were prey. They were about to learn the difference between hunting and being hunted. The asteroid belt stretched out before Day like a field of floating mountains. He cut his engines and let the ship drift, becoming just another piece of rock in the endless darkness. The stealth system hummed quietly, masking his energy signature. He had been waiting for 6 hours. His body was tense, his mind alert. He had reviewed the plan 100 times. Now it was time to execute. The sensors picked up the convoy before his eyes could see it. 3 ships, 2 small escort fighters and 1 medium cargo freighter. Black Fang Raiders, the same group that had attacked the New Dawn. Day's hands tightened on the controls. He forced himself to breathe slowly, to stay calm. Anger was useful, but only if controlled. Rage made people careless. Carelessness meant death. The convoy moved through the asteroid field at a steady pace, following the mapped route that Mina had provided. The escort fighters scanned for threats, but their sensors were designed to detect large warships, not small scout vessels hiding among the rocks. They passed within 200 meters of Day's position and saw nothing. Day waited until they were past him, then activated his engines at minimum power. He followed them from behind, using the asteroids for cover. The escort fighters never looked back. Why would they? This was their territory. They were the hunters here, or so they thought. Day selected his first target, the rear escort fighter. He armed his weapons and moved closer, still hidden by the stealth field. 50 meters, 30, 20. He fired. The electromagnetic pulse hit the escort fighter's engines and electronics simultaneously. The ship went dark, tumbling through space without power. Before the pilot could even send a distress signal, Day fired again. The kinetic rounds punched through the fighter's hull, depressurizing the cockpit in seconds. 1 down. The second escort fighter detected the attack and wheeled around, weapons charging. But Day was already moving, diving between two asteroids and cutting his engines again. The fighter fired at where he had been, missing by hundreds of meters. Day waited in the shadow of an asteroid, watching his sensors. The fighter circled, searching. The pilot was confused, uncertain. How could something hide so completely? Where had the attacker gone? The fighter passed close to Day's hiding spot. Too close. Day launched a small missile that Sung had modified from a mining charge. It was crude, slow, and would never hit a moving target. But the fighter was not moving. It was hovering, searching. The missile struck the fighter's fuel tanks. The explosion was bright and brief in the vacuum of space. 2 down. The cargo freighter's crew realized they were under attack. They tried to run, pushing their engines to maximum. But the freighter was designed for cargo, not speed. Dai caught up easily. He did not destroy the freighter. Instead, he targeted the engines with precise shots, crippling the ship without breaching the hull. Then he moved alongside and activated the docking clamps. The airlock took 3 minutes to cycle. Day used the time to put on his combat suit and check his weapons. A simple kinetic pistol and a blade. Nothing fancy. Nothing that required complex technology. The inner door opened. Day stepped into the freighter. The corridor was dark, lit only by emergency lights. Day moved forward carefully, his footsteps silent. He had studied the layout of this ship model and knew exactly where the crew would be. A pirate appeared at the end of the corridor, weapon raised. He was a Krillian, all 4 arms holding different guns. He should have been intimidating. Day shot him twice before the pirate could pull a single trigger. The body fell. 3 more pirates rushed from a side room. Day threw a small flashbang grenade and ducked back around the corner. The explosion was disorienting in the enclosed space. When Day emerged, the pirates were stumbling, temporarily blinded. He moved through them like smoke, using the blade when guns would make too much noise. Using the gun when speed was more important than silence. He did not give them time to recover, time to organize, time to think. In the military archives, he had read about something called shock and awe. Overwhelming force applied so quickly that the enemy could not respond. He was 1 human against a dozen pirates, but in that moment, he was the overwhelming force. The ship's captain was on the bridge, frantically trying to send a distress signal. Day entered quietly and disabled the communications console with a single shot. The captain turned, reaching for his weapon. "Do not," Day said quietly. The captain, a scarred Vorath with scales modeled from old burns, stared at the human in disbelief. "You are just a human." "Yes." Day's voice was cold. "Just a human." He spent the next hour searching the freighter. The cargo hold was full of stolen goods, medical supplies, weapons, technology. In the captain's quarters, he found something more valuable: data files, records of raids, payments to Vorath officials, coordinates for other pirate bases. Mina would find this useful. Before he left, Day did something that would later become his signature. He used a plasma cutter to burn a message into the bridge's main console. Simple words in Galactic Standard. The humans remember. He left 1 pirate alive, a young Talarian who had been in the engine room during the fighting. Day locked the others in the cargo hold and sealed the doors. "Tell them," Day said to the surviving pirate. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them a human did this. Tell them we do not forget." The pirate nodded frantically, his eyes wide with fear. Day returned to his ship and undocked. He set the freighter's distress beacon to activate in 6 hours, giving him time to escape. Then he disappeared back into the asteroid field. The attack took 12 minutes from start to finish. News of the attack spread quickly through the criminal networks. A Black Fang convoy destroyed, a cargo freighter captured and looted. Crew killed except for 1 survivor who told a crazy story about a lone human warrior. Most dismissed it as invention. Humans were not warriors. They were weak, soft, poorly adapted for combat. The survivor must have been traumatized, seeing things that were not there. But the message burned into the console was real, and the data files were missing. Commander Threx heard about the attack during his morning briefing. He listened to the report with amusement. A human? Ridiculous. Probably a rival pirate group. But later, sitting alone in his office, he pulled up the surveillance footage from the loading docks. He watched Dae Kim moving cargo containers, the same weak human he had humiliated weeks ago. Except the human in the footage no longer looked weak. His movements were different, more controlled, more dangerous. Threx dismissed the thought. It was impossible. Humans were not capable of such things. On Viridian 7, Dae returned to his normal routine as if nothing had happened. He worked his shifts, endured the usual mockery, kept his head down. But in the evenings, he met with Mina to review the data he had captured. "This is valuable," Mina said, scrolling through the files. "Very valuable. There are locations for 3 more pirate bases here. And these payment records..." She looked up at Dae. "This could bring down several Vorath officials." "Good," Dae said, "but I am not done yet." "I know." Mina handed him a new data chip. "Here is the next target, a pirate listening post in the outer belt. They use it to track commercial shipping." Dae took the chip. "How soon can I go?" "The station security is starting to ask questions about unusual ship movements. You should wait a week." Dae nodded. A week. He could wait a week. He had waited 3 months already. He had all the time in the world. Because the pirates did not know it yet, but they were not dealing with a single attack. They were not dealing with a lucky ambush. They were dealing with a hunter who had learned patience, and that hunter would not stop until every pirate who had touched the new dawn was dead. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you pushed a human too far. Over the next 8 weeks, Dae struck 5 more times. Each attack was different, each one carefully planned. He destroyed a pirate listening post, sabotaged a weapons depot, and liberated a slave transport carrying 42 aliens who had been captured in raids. The pirates began to call him the Ghost because he appeared without warning and vanished without trace. Some thought he was a rival criminal organization. Others believed he was a rogue government agent. None believed he was a single human working alone. The Black Fang Raiders were bleeding resources and reputation. Trade in their territory had become dangerous, and their protection fees were no longer worth paying. Other criminal groups began to push into their space, smelling weakness. On Viridian 7, life continued as normal for Dae. He worked the loading docks during the day, trained at night, and planned his next moves. The aliens still mocked him, still called him weak. He let them. It was useful to be underestimated, but Mina noticed the changes in him. "You are not sleeping," she said one evening as they reviewed intelligence reports. "You are pushing too hard." "I am fine." "No, you are not." She grabbed his arm. "Look at yourself, Dae. You have lost weight. Your hands shake when you think no one is watching. You are running on anger and caffeine." Dae pulled his arm away. "They killed Hana." "I know, but Hana would not want you to destroy yourself for revenge." "This is not revenge." Dae's voice was hard. "This is justice. There is a difference." Mina sighed. "Is there? Because from where I stand, you are becoming the thing you hate, cold, ruthless, willing to do anything to win." "Good," Dae said. "That is what it takes to win." Sung was worried too. He found Dae in the private dock, working on the ship at 3 in the morning. "You should rest. The ship needs maintenance." "The ship is fine. You are the one who needs maintenance." Sung sat down on a cargo container. "We are your friends, Dae. We want to help, but we cannot help if you shut us out." Dae put down his tools. "I am sorry. I know you are both worried, but I cannot stop. Not yet. Not until they pay for what they did." "And what then? What happens when they are all dead? Will you be able to stop?" Or will you find new targets? The question hung in the air. Day did not have an answer. 2 days later, Mina brought news that changed everything. The Black Fang Raiders are setting a trap. They leaked information about a meeting of their leadership, location, time, everything. They want me to come. Obviously, they will have dozens of fighters there, maybe more. Heavy weapons. It is suicide. Day studied the data. The meeting was supposedly happening at an abandoned space station in neutral territory, far from any Galactic Council patrol routes. Perfect for an ambush. I am going, he said. Did you hear me? This is a trap. I know, but they made a mistake. Day pulled up a schematic of the station. They think I will try to hit them from outside, ship-to-ship combat, but that is not how I fight. What are you planning? Day smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. To walk through the front door. 3 days later, Day's ship approached the abandoned station. His sensors showed at least 40 pirate vessels in the area, all trying to look like normal traffic. Not very convincing. He opened a communication channel. This is the Ghost. I am here for your leadership. You have one chance to surrender them peacefully. The response was immediate. A barrage of weapons fire from every direction. Day's ship took hits to the shields, alarms blaring. He did not return fire. Instead, he dove straight toward the station's docking bay, dodging fire with moves he had practiced 1,000 times. The pirates were good, but they were not prepared for someone to actually dock with the station. They expected a space battle. They got something else. Day's ship crashed through the docking bay's atmosphere shield and skidded to a stop inside. He was out of the cockpit in seconds, armed and moving before the pirates could organize. The station was old, built for ore processing decades ago. Long corridors, multiple levels, countless hiding spots. Day had studied the schematics for hours. He knew every vent shaft, every maintenance tunnel, every place where the cameras had blind spots. The pirates flooded into the station, searching for him. 50 armed fighters against 1 human. The smart thing would be to run, to escape while he could. Day did not run. He had rigged the docking bay with explosives before leaving his ship. When the first wave of pirates entered, he triggered the charges remotely. The explosion sealed the main entrance and killed a dozen pirates. The others fell back, suddenly uncertain. They had expected to hunt 1 man. Instead, the station had become a maze, and they were the ones being hunted. Day moved through the maintenance tunnels, emerging behind pirate groups and hitting them before they knew he was there. He used the station's old systems against them, venting atmosphere in sealed sections, overloading power conduits, creating distractions and chaos. The pirates had better weapons, better armor, better numbers, but Day had something they did not. He had prepared. Every trap, every ambush, every route had been planned in advance, and he was willing to do whatever it took to win. Commander Threx watched the battle from Viridian 7. He had managed to tap into the station's security feed, curious to see what would happen. What he saw made him lean forward in his chair. The human moved like nothing Threx had ever seen. Not strong like a Vorath, not fast like a Krillian, but efficient. Precise. Every movement had purpose. Every shot found its target, and the pirates were terrified. Threx could see it in how they moved, how they bunched together for safety, how they fired at shadows. They had come to hunt, but now they were prey. Impossible, Threx whispered. Just a human. On the station, Dee cornered the last group of pirates in the central processing chamber. They had barricaded themselves in, thinking they were safe. Day did not try to breach the barricade. Instead, he accessed the station's old environmental controls. "You have 1 minute to surrender," he said over the comm system. "Never!" the pirate captain shouted. "We are 50 strong! You are 1!" 42 now, Day corrected. "And you have 45 seconds." He began pumping carbon dioxide into the sealed chamber. The pirates realized what was happening and tried to break through the barricade, but Day had sealed the alternate exits. They had 30 seconds of air left when they finally surrendered. Day let them out one at a time, zip-tying their hands and checking them for weapons. When the pirate captain emerged, Day grabbed him by the collar. "Where is your real leadership? This meeting was fake." The captain, a massive Vorath with scars across his face, laughed. "You think we would risk our leaders for one human? This was never about killing you in combat. It was about capturing you. You failed." "Did I?" The captain smiled. "Look at yourself. You are alone, exhausted, surrounded. Even if you kill all of us, more will come. You cannot win." Day looked at the dozens of defeated pirates around him. Then he looked at the captain. "I already won, and I have something you do not have." "What is that?" Day pulled a small recording device from his pocket. Proof. He had recorded everything. The pirates' confessions, their connections to corrupt Vorath officials, their admission that the attack on the New Dawn had been ordered from higher up, and the entire battle had been broadcast across every communication channel in the sector. Millions had watched a single human dismantle 50 pirate fighters. The captain's smile vanished. Back on Viridian 7, Commander Threx slowly closed the video feed. Around the station, aliens gathered in groups, talking in hushed voices. They had all seen it. The weak human, the primitive species, the freight handler from the loading docks. They had watched him become something terrifying. Threx pulled up Day's personnel file and stared at the photo. The face was the same, but everything else had changed. This was not a human to be mocked. This was a warrior, a hunter, a threat, and he was just getting started. The broadcast changed everything. Within hours, the video of Day's battle at the pirate station had spread across the entire sector. News agencies picked it up. Government officials demanded explanations. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions. Humanity was no longer seen as weak. On Viridian 7, the whispers followed Day wherever he went. Aliens who had mocked him now stepped aside when he walked past. Commander Threx no longer harassed him. The other workers no longer laughed. They were afraid. But Day did not care about their fear. He had extracted the information he needed from the captured pirates before turning them over to the authorities. Names, locations, and most importantly, the identity of the Vorath official who had ordered the attack on the New Dawn. Admiral Corvan, high-ranking military commander, political powerhouse. Protected by layers of security and influence, the man responsible for Hana's death. Mina was horrified when Day told her his plan. "You cannot go after Corvan. He is untouchable. Even with the evidence, even with everything we know, he has too much protection. Then I will go through his protection. Day, listen to me." Mina grabbed his shoulders. "You won. You exposed the conspiracy. The Galactic Council is investigating. The Black Fang Raiders are finished. You got justice." "No," Day said quietly. "I got revenge against the weapon. But the hand that wielded the weapon is still free. That is not justice." Sung tried reasoning with him, too. "This is different from fighting pirates. Corvan commands an entire fleet. His flagship has thousands of soldiers. You cannot fight an army. I do not need to fight an army. I only need to reach one person." Despite their protests, Day moved forward with his plan. He studied Corvan's movements, his schedule, his security protocols. The Admiral was careful, always surrounded by guards, always protected. But he was also arrogant. And arrogance created weaknesses. Corvan was scheduled to attend a diplomatic summit on a neutral station in 2 weeks. Every major power in the sector would send representatives. Security would be heavy, but it would also be divided among many different delegations. It was Day's best chance, possibly his only chance. To his surprise, Sung and Mina did not try to stop him. Instead, they showed up at his dock 3 days before the summit with bags of equipment. "What are you doing?" Day asked. "We are coming with you," Mina said simply. "This is too dangerous. I cannot ask you to—" "You are not asking. We are telling you." Sung began loading equipment onto Day's ship. "You think we are going to let you walk into a suicide mission alone? We are your friends. We stand together." Day felt something tighten in his chest. For months he had been operating alone, pushing everyone away, focused only on his mission. He had forgotten what it felt like to have people who cared. "Thank you," he said quietly. Over the next 3 days, they prepared. The plan was complex, requiring precise timing and more than a little luck. They would infiltrate the summit during the opening ceremonies, locate Corvin, extract him, and force a public confession. Simple, impossible. But it was all they had. They were not entirely alone. Several aliens whose lives Day had saved during his raids against the pirates volunteered to help. A Talarian pilot, a Groovian engineer, a young Krillian who had been freed from the slave transport. "You saved us," the Talarian said. "Now we help save you." The team arrived at the summit station 2 days early, blending in with the crowds of workers and support staff. Security was tight but focused on major threats: weapons, explosives, unauthorized vessels. They were not looking for a small group moving quietly through the crowds. Day's team split up, each taking assigned positions throughout the station. Mina worked the information networks, tracking Corvin's movements. Sung prepared their escape route. The others created distractions and diversions. The summit began with a grand ceremony in the main hall. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of species gathered to discuss peace, trade, and cooperation. Admiral Corvin sat in the Vorath delegation section, looking bored. Day watched from the service corridors above the hall, waiting for his moment. The plan was to grab Corvin during the break between sessions when he would be moving through less secure areas. But plans rarely survived contact with the enemy. Corvin's security team spotted one of Day's lookouts and sounded an alarm. Suddenly, guards were everywhere searching for infiltrators. The summit went into lockdown. "We have to abort," Mina said over the comm. "Security is too high now." Day watched Corvin being escorted by a dozen guards toward a secure chamber. This was his only chance. If Corvin reached that chamber, he would be unreachable. "No," Day said. "We move now." He dropped from the service corridor into the main hallway, landing in front of Corvin's security detail. The guards raised their weapons, but Day was already moving. He threw a smoke grenade and charged forward. The next 30 seconds were chaos, guards firing blindly through smoke, Day moving between them, using their confusion against them. He was not trying to kill them, just get through them. He reached Corvin and grabbed the Admiral, pressing a weapon against his neck. "Call them off!" Corvin's eyes widened in recognition. "You." The human from the station. "Call them off, or I will kill you right here." Corvin raised his hand, and his guards lowered their weapons. The smoke cleared, revealing dozens of security personnel surrounding them. Day was trapped, but he had Corvin. Stalemate. "You cannot escape," Corvin said. "Kill me, and they kill you. Let me go, and they kill you anyway. You have lost." "Maybe," Day said, "but you are going to tell the truth first." He triggered a device that Sung had built, broadcasting his voice across the entire summit. Every screen, every speaker, every communication channel suddenly showed Day holding Admiral Corvin. "My name is Day Kim," he said to the watching galaxy. 3 months ago, my sister and my friend were killed when the diplomatic vessel New Dawn was attacked by pirates. The Galactic Council said it was an unfortunate risk, but it was not. It was murder, ordered by this person. "Lies," Corvin shouted. "Human lies." Day pulled out the data chip containing all the evidence. "I have the pirate confessions, the payment records, the communications. All of it proves that Admiral Corvin hired the Black Fang Raiders to attack the New Dawn, to steal human medical technology." The crowd in the hall erupted in shouts and arguments. Galactic Council representatives demanded to see the evidence. Vorath officials claimed it was fabricated. Corvan struggled against Day's grip. "You have no proof! Just the words of criminals!" "Then let us ask them directly." Mina's voice came over the broadcast. She had found 3 of Corvan's co-conspirators in the crowd and was broadcasting their panicked faces. Under the pressure of public exposure, they began to crack. One of them, a junior Vorath officer, broke completely. "It is true. Corvan ordered the attack. He wanted the human medical technology to sell to the highest bidder." The revelation hit like a bomb. The summit dissolved into chaos. Vorath officials tried to contain the damage. Galactic Council security moved in to arrest Corvan's co-conspirators, and Day stood in the center of it all, still holding Corvan. "You ruined me," Corvan hissed, "but you will die here. My guards will kill you." "Maybe," Day said. "But everyone knows the truth now. That is enough." Galactic Council security arrived, led by officers from neutral species. "Release the Admiral. You are both under arrest." Day let Corvan go and dropped his weapon. He did not resist as they put restraints on his wrists. He had done what he came to do. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Corvan and his co-conspirators were convicted of conspiracy, murder, and corruption. They would spend the rest of their lives in prison. Day was charged with assault, illegal weapons possession, and a dozen other crimes. But public opinion had turned strongly in his favor. Humans across the galaxy rallied to his defense. Even some aliens spoke out, saying that Day had done what the Galactic Council should have done. In the end, he received a suspended sentence and probation. The judge, a wise old Talarian, looked at Day with what might have been respect. "You took the law into your own hands," the judge said. "That cannot be condoned. But you also exposed corruption that we should have found ourselves. You have my gratitude, if not my approval." Day returned to Viridian 7 one last time to collect his things. The station felt different now. Aliens still stared at him, but with respect, rather than mockery. Some even nodded in greeting. Commander Threx was waiting at the loading dock. The big Vorath looked uncomfortable. "I owe you an apology," Threx said. "I thought humans were weak. I was wrong." "You were not entirely wrong," Day said. "We are physically weaker than most species. We do not have natural weapons or armor. But we have something else. We adapt. We endure. We do not give up." Threx nodded slowly. "I will remember that." Day found Sung and Mina waiting at his ship. They had already loaded his belongings. "Where will you go?" Mina asked. "Earth, for a while. To visit Hana's grave. To remember who I was before all this." Day looked at his friends. "And then I do not know, but thank you. For everything." "What you did changed things," Sung said. "Humanity is not seen as weak anymore. You showed the galaxy what we are capable of." Day thought about that. He had set out for revenge and found something else along the way. Purpose, justice. The knowledge that one person, even a weak human, could make a difference. "I hope they remember the right lesson," Day said. "I did not do this to prove humans are strong. I did this because it was right, because someone had to stand up, because the strong should not be allowed to abuse the weak without consequences." He boarded his ship and prepared for departure. Through the view screen, he could see Earth's sun, distant but bright. Home. As the ship lifted off, Day allowed himself to relax for the first time in months. Hana and Yuna would never come back. The pain of their loss would never fully fade. But their deaths had not been meaningless. Justice had been served, corruption had been exposed, and the galaxy had learned a truth that would echo for generations. Humans were not prey. They were survivors. They were adapters. They were hunters when they needed to be. And they never, ever forgot.